is a happy Friday morning in Montrose. Wow, guess who we have in the studios today? Michelle Klippert from the Real Estate Store, one of my favorite people on the planet. And you know what? Today we're going to have some fun, but we're not going to just talk fluff, because real estate this year and going into next year is a serious deal, right, Michelle?
It is. There are some changes. There are some things that are challenges, but at the same time, there's hope.
Good. So I'm looking forward to chatting with Michelle and hearing about some of these changes, challenges, but I also going to get her to laugh once or twice, this morning.
Not hard for you.
Not hard at all. But before we get to that, we have a couple of events coming up. Can't believe it's the holiday season already. If you are looking for ways to help this community, Mrs. Claus for a Cause is happening. It's going on the 17th and the 18th, and so they could definitely use some donations. Have you been a part of that?
Yes, and I think so many of our community has been, because there's been so many needs.
Yeah, it's been a difficult 24 months, hasn't it?
I agree.
And the needs continue to change. So if that's one you want to get behind, please reach out to Mrs. Claus for a Cause. And guess what? The Ute India Museum puts on this annual movie night, and it's that is coming up, and it's called Christmas in the Clouds, and that's going to be on the 18th through the 26th. So it is a fun movie about this chef who just decides that he needs time off for the holidays, but he works for a resort. But before that, have you been to Precedence music?
Well, not recently, but okay. I hear they're having a lot of events coming up.
They do.
Yes.
So they have a band coming up called the Hugh Phillips Band, and that's going to be upstairs at Precedence. Nice. And I believe it's a Mexicana band.
Ooh, that's kind of a fun thing.
I know,
right?
It makes me want to dance.
Salsa.
You're going to show us a couple of things, Michelle?
No.
Oh, come on.
But I'm anxious to see you do it.
So years ago, they used to make me dance on this show. I'm not going to do that yet. But I will tell you that the annual concert, Christmas concert, the Montrose Band, that is happening on the 19th. So it's Montrose Community Band's annual concert. It will be at the Pavilion. I have never attended. Have you?
Well, what's so nice about that is it's truly a community band.
Right.
Like, there's really something to be said about that. People coming together in your community and creating some beautiful music, and especially during the holidays.
And they're all
it's
ages,
wonderful.
right?
Right.
Right. Oh, it is so nice to see some of the
Yes.
youth playing with, the older folks. And,
Yeah, I think it's wonderful.
Okay. Do you play an instrument, Michelle?
I did
You
in
did?
school.
Oh, gosh.
And so, yeah, for those who want to hear me play the piccolo, I'm your girl.
All right.
It's been a while.
So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and I'm going to try and find a piccolo for Michelle to play. But in all seriousness, we'll be right back, and we're going to talk all things real estate with Michelle Klippert from the Real Estate Store.
Employees, and we were in a double wide trailer with 4 exam rooms. So that's where we started, behind an elementary school, really focused on taking care of those children. It was a school-based clinic prior to us becoming an FQHC. But very quickly, we realized the community needed a lot more support, a lot more access to healthcare. So in the last 8 years, we've grown to 3 different sites. We have 104 employees now, and we're taking care of about 6,600 unique patients a year.
In Colorado, we come prepared to weather any storm, to choose to see obstacles as challenges that make us stronger and better. When things get hard, we face them, dig in, and rise above. That's why Alpine Bank is proud to call Colorado home. After all, everything we need is right here. You are Colorado. So are we.
It's pretty though.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we are back in the studios with Michelle Klippert. And before we talk about Michelle, I want to talk about Michelle and a few other people. So thank you so much to our sponsors and underwriters. We have the Real Estate Store, we have Alpine Bank, we have River Valley Family Health Centers, and we have Elevate. Thank you so much for each and every week underwriting Montrose Matters Live. We couldn't do this show without you.
Well, it's a proud moment for us. We are really excited about what you're doing, Tanya, and what you've given to our community. So it segued into a no-brainer for us. This is something that we wanted to support.
Well, that just, see, she's gonna make me cry. I thought that I was supposed to like squeeze you for some tough, answers.
We'll get there.
and
We'll get there.
We're gonna get there. Okay, so Michelle,
Yes.
I'm a little afraid here. Real estate. I want to talk about several things, but what's on most people's minds? And please send questions. Lots and lots of questions. But inventory. What's going on with the inventory here?
It's the craziest thing, but it is a long story. So we can kind of dive into a little bit of it. One is we know that there's a pandemic, and there still is, and this started.
It's not over?
It's not over, and it did start in 2020. And people didn't get out of their houses, Tanya. I mean, and not only that, but they didn't even have to make payments, which rightfully so for so many who were sick or whatever was happening. So up to 27% of FHA loans went into forbearance, and people just did not make their payments. So even until now. But the interesting thing is from September of this last year, you could have gotten someone out of their home who couldn't make a payment for rent or make a payment on their house payment, right? But you never saw the surge happen after that. It's very interesting. People, one of the things is that people who had mortgages, they're so higher up in their equity that they're able to go back. But the whole thing has frozen all communities. It's not just us. It's all communities.
This is happening nationwide.
This is happening nationwide. But what's happening to us is people still want to move into these smaller communities. If you can work from home, why wouldn't you work in a beautiful community like ours?
Right.
Why wouldn't social distancing already be a part of your everyday life? And so we had this surge of people who came to the smaller towns like ours, but also came to our mountain towns. They overwhelmed Aspen and Ouray and Crested Butte, and they just filled up those communities. And when they filled them up, then our worker bees could not work there. So we were discussing our worker bees because Montrose has always been a worker bee community. And so when the people of Ouray or Ridgeway cannot afford to live in their own communities, they're coming to Montrose.
Right.
But we don't have inventory for them.
We don't. And so I want to go back to that for a second, Michelle, because I think we have to paint the picture. You're not saying that these folks should have been foreclosed on.
No.
What you're saying and reminding us is that foreclosure was a part of the natural evolution of real estate here in Montrose. So there was always a certain amount of foreclosure inventory.
Right.
And all of a sudden, that went away.
That completely went away.
Okay, I want to make sure that was clear. Because
no, I appreciate that because it's not something that anybody wishes on anybody.
No, not at all.
But it's a natural progression when someone does not make their mortgage payment that a lender is going to go through the foreclosure process. And in Colorado, we're a trustee state. There's not very many that are trustee states. And it takes a time to do that. So even if someone were to be foreclosed, got election demand today, it's going to take several months for that to happen.
Yes.
So even if we're looking at from September to now, we still don't have the election of demands. So it seems like the lenders are keeping these in-house or on their portfolios, which is very interesting because back in 2008 to 10, they were getting them off their
Were they really?
Like, what's going to happen? But I think it has to do with the prices because they're more confident they can get that price back out, whereas in the earlier recession, you could not get that price back out. You couldn't get it back out. So that's just one element of
Exactly.
it. The other element is we're growing naturally. And you have talked about that yourself. Yes. We have places that absolutely need workers. And we have new industries coming in that need workers. But our community has not embraced a lot of our development. Now, we as real estate agents know we need this development.
Yes.
Because we need to put people places. And it's natural. If the hospital needs, how many workers do you say?
Yeah, I think they're at 180, almost 200 that they're going to need.
We have a new Marriott coming in that needs
40.
yeah, we have even our own mail place.
Oh, it's called the post office, Michelle.
I mean, and you see there, and they're all needing help.
Yes.
But we've got to bring these people in from where?
And where they're going to live.
And at the same time, the smaller communities are looking for that too. So there's a really, really dynamic thing going on, switching houses and things like that. And people are frozen. Our elderly do not, even if they want to sell and need to sell, many times they will not sell because they don't have anywhere to go.
Right. And so I have to tell you, this is something, not that the elderly isn't near and dear to my heart, but I have 2 employees who are first-time home buyers. What about them? We are a community that our goal is to attract young families and or retain young families. And I have 2 scenarios, Michelle. One, born here, grew up here, went to school here, is engaged in getting married here, and they're looking for their first home. They're both working, they're out of school, and they're adults, 24 years old, trying to buy a house.
Well, and you think back just a couple of years. So in 2019, our average price was about $286,000 for a new home. And that could be our first-time buyers and people like that. Our average home has gone up to around $450,000. Now you look at that same 24-year-old,
yes,
and at the same time, maybe they're making more, maybe they're not. Interest rate may be different.
Exactly. That's
so they're be able, but we still have stepped them out of the process. So we're desperately needing developments that will bring in our first-time buyers.
Yes.
Now those first-time buyer developments will also bring back our elderly because
they can downsize.
They can downsize.
I get it.
So we want to live
as
long as we can in our homes.
Right.
And as we grow and you get of a certain age and you're in a 4,000 square foot home because your family was all there,
yes,
when everybody's gone, you need to go back down to that 2,500, 1,700 square feet. So that fits that mold. It fits the younger mold. It fits our veterans mold because our vets are only able to afford a certain amount as well. And I think that we just need to embrace some of these changes. And I think I said to you, Grand Junction had the same problem as they were growing, is that there was a lot of negative input. They wanted to keep it a certain, but it's inevitable. And so we need to embrace it
and figure out how to make it beneficial for all
of
involved.
us.
Yes.
And I did joke with you, and I did
Tracy jokes with me every now and then.
So I said to her, I said the reason that people are coming is because they like our smaller community, but they want the amenities. So get the smaller community, but I need my target, type thing. And I said, well, if you want the smaller community, I can find you a house in Nucla. So the point is that we want to keep this, but it's not. Maybe we do need to replace ourselves if that's what your whole interest of the rest of your life is.
Okay. So, no, I love Montrose. Not that I don't love Nucla, but
it's Montrose County.
It is Montrose County. You're absolutely right. I will not move. Okay? Yeah. Unless there's a house available for our growing family.
But that's what, if you look at the Denver area, for our young people who can't find places, they were outpriced at Boulder, they were outpriced in Denver, and where did they move to? Longmont, Erie, and they still came in to work.
That is true.
So it's finding the worker bee areas, and Montrose has always been one. We just need to embrace it and enhance it.
We do, and maybe figuring out how to educate the community on the what developers are truly wanting to do here and bring here, and how that will help the community instead of all the negativity. The other that is not, no one loves to talk about, and I want to talk about right after this commercial break, are the investors.
Right.
And especially the out-of-town investors.
Right.
So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to be back with Michelle Klippert. Send your questions, and we'll make sure we get those answered for you. We'll be right back.
At the Real Estate Store, we're a group of real estate professionals who share all forms of property brokering in an innovative way. Our expertise and experience makes us the best choice for buyers and sellers. Our brokers are ready to assist you, either in person or virtually. Come visit us in historic downtown Montrose and experience for yourself the difference of our personal, professional property brokers.
Believe it, just like Gigfoot, zero-lag gaming does exist. The real myth now? Slow internet made you lose. So step up your game with Elevate Internet today.
Okay, and we're back with Michelle Klippert, and she tried to make me dance over the break, but I told her I wasn't going to do it, But she also tried to send me to Nucla.
True.
Still in Montrose County, but, I'm going to stay right here.
Yeah.
We were talking about some really unpopular discussions and topics that people don't want to talk about, and one was the developers and the need to get behind the developers so that we can increase the inventory in our community. So the other concern is, let's say we do that. What about these investors who are coming in and buying up property and don't live here, could care less?
Right. Well, that's happening everywhere. So let's put in perspective in that when you don't have inventory and you have the cash and maybe you're able to take it out of the stock market or whatever it is and buy a property, and you can get 2 and 3 times the rent that you used to be able to get, correct?
Right.
Then it was a no-brainer that these investors were coming in to make some money going on. And this is not just Montrose, but what it did is it upped our rents. Yeah. So it's very expensive, right? Because you still don't have inventory. It used to be, and it was cheaper to buy than it was to rent. And it may come back to that because there's so few places available, even as rentals. You're thinking, why shouldn't I just buy this place? Right? I mean, I could have less out. But it also came into the pictures where investors were picking up for Airbnbs, VRBOs, and it was areas that they could bring people in and they could nightly do this. Well, most communities are now trying to put in something in their legislation that says either you can or can't, or these are the areas that you can do it. But it overwhelmed our small mountain towns, which we are very close to. Ridgeway and Ouray, our worker bees are there, and it overwhelmed them to the point where, in fact, Crested Butte was the first to put on the moratorium that says, no more Airbnbs. We have to have a place for our workers. We don't have any place for them to live. Right. Aspen did the same, but Aspen even went a little further that says we are not even going to give you a building permit. You can't come in and redefine anything.
Goodness.
So I think, and Ouray has one as well that says a moratorium for the Airbnbs. So this was really, they were making hand over fist, but so was the little guy. Like you and I could have bought something and Airbnb did. And it did have some smaller people have good investments for nightly things that came on, but nobody knew the consequences for living in communities. So here we are in that same type of thing. Do we have investors? Yes. We're going to have investors until the inventory is enough to purchase, because they're going to make some good money off that. And it's just capitalism, basically. It's just the way it is. If you can make the dollar, that's what they're going to do. But it does take your 24-year out of the picture. It does. It does take our young people out of the picture. It becomes cash. We're having to do things that in our contracts where you have acceleration clauses that will go over higher than anybody else. You have clauses that are, we don't care about their appraisal, we'll pay over their appraised value. But it could get them in the end sometimes, because if you're paying $40,000 over appraised value, how long do you have to stay in that house to be able to? Yes. But they do have a place to live, right? So It's made it very interesting in real estate. There's been a lot of give and take for that.
Yes.
It's kind of a sad moment, but you were saying about a 24-year-old and how they want to write a letter that says, okay, I lived here my whole life, I have my puppy, I have this.
Yeah.
But now, we used to do that all the time, but
can't do
now
it.
we can't do it because it's against fair housing. And fair housing states that nobody can make a decision based on something like that. Like it may end up creed, color, religion, that type of thing, and then it's on the seller or someone who's selling to say, I didn't choose because of that. So we're in a really strange place in our world.
But there's hope and there's workarounds. I will tell you, in my neighborhood, and we live in a very modest, like there's nothing fancy about where we live. There was an open lot that someone sold, and a local family here, they don't live in the neighborhood, but they wanted to build houses. And they built a home in our neighborhood, got to know the neighbors. It was literally right across the street from my home. They saw our kids out playing, or my one child, but it looks like I have more, playing. And I would talk to them and other neighbors, and everybody was just curious about this little house that they're building, and just can't wait. Well, it went on the market, and for about $100,000 more than what the average home in that neighborhood had gone for. And so because they got to know everyone in our neighborhood and saw how family oriented it was, that they made a conscious effort to find a buyer who wanted to live in the neighborhood. And so
but it would be rare that they would find out, because we now can't talk about that.
So how they found out, I don't know.
But isn't it interesting? Because my sellers often want that kind of freedom to be able to choose that same way.
Yes.
But now contracts are coming with just names on them, and you don't know who these people are. And so it's interesting. Now, if it's something in a trust or something like that, or sometimes you can see a name knowing that it's going to be an investor, sometimes you can see that.
And they said they knowingly saw that the majority of the ones that came in bid over were investors, and that there was one they could tell that was someone who wanted to live there, and a retiree who chose our neighborhood. And I am so grateful, because just because you can, Michelle, doesn't mean you should.
No,
and
that's true.
They
That's
were
true.
looking at the value of the community that they live in as a
Right.
whole, and I like
Well,
that.
and I remember being young with my own kids and driving through neighborhoods and wanting to live in certain neighborhoods, knowing they would have friends there, knowing
Yes.
I wouldn't have too far to go to bring them to a baseball game or whatever it is. It was about way of life.
Yeah, you're a good
It's
mom.
about
I don't take precedent anyway.
it was about a way of life. And today we still are seeking those things. But for the developments, for instance, I'm just going to bring out something controversial, being the hub.
Not you.
Being the hub near Cobble Creek.
Oh, yes.
And
Okay.
we are so in need of that type of living. I know everybody says not my backyard, but at the same time, I don't think it would affect Cobble Creek's values at all. It wouldn't matter, because it's just really going to be needed for that. You have to have that stair stepping in your community, whether it's you start out in maybe a manufactured home, maybe you go into a nice small home in a
Yes.
different area, maybe an older home and fix it up, but you have to have the stair stepping that goes into our community, and we're losing the first step. People are having to jump to the second step. And so we really are in need of, I come back to development, and we're in need of it, and we need to stand behind it and behind the people who are willing to put their money out. Because in the first recession is that we had a lot of builders and a lot of developers, but when they went under, those people left. They left our community. They went to North Dakota. They went to wherever it is. So to get people to reinvest for that type of thing is not easy in a community anymore. And we need to stand behind those people to be able to do
And
so.
you just brought up something. It's not just a step up. It also helps the elderly who are trying to downsize.
Yes.
And they may not necessarily want to downsize to a home again.
Right.
A multifamily unit may be the best place for them, because someone wants to take care of their yard at certain stages in their life. And when you are young, you you don't have the equipment. So investing in.
So you start in the same place.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And it really should be the way we do it because we can live longer. And that's when you talk, and I am a senior specialist and I have several in my office, but that's when we talk about is that you don't want to be in a 2-story house where you can't live as long. Right. You want to start thinking about when you retire at 60 anymore, you might have 30 years left. I mean, that's a long time. So you need to start thinking like, how can I live as long in this property as possible? Now, sometimes you can modify a property and make it work, but like you're saying, if you're at that stage, we have to go down the stairs too to live as long as we can.
Exactly, because I can't afford a chairlift, so I need a place to go.
I don't want that going up my stairs. No. Yeah, exactly. But you're right. There are things like that that are very important, and we can embrace it. We can see hope. We've got people coming. We know there's going to be jobs.
Yes, there are jobs.
We have the jobs. Now we just need to start filling them. And we will fill it in our community, and it's going to be a give and take. Will we have restaurants that go under? Yes. Will we have other amenities that will go under? Yes. But at the same time, we have the opportunity to grow in different areas. And so hopefully that will.
It is a good time to be in Montrose, Colorado.
I'm so grateful. Every day I'm grateful. So I walk out and I get to not only look at homes, but I get to look at the growth of the people in those homes.
Yes.
And it's just so encouraging and thinking that, this is a great place to live. It is not hard to sell Montrose, Colorado if you live here. Yeah. I mean, we don't have to make up anything. All we have to do is tell them about us and they're going to want to come.
Exactly.
Because it is a great place to raise your family, to live, to enjoy the outdoors. It's just a beautiful place.
I would agree. This is why we call Montrose home. All right, Michelle, I have the toughest question of the day for you.
I'm ready.
Okay. What is the big gift for the grandkids? Come on, back in the day.
Well, it's so funny because, that's a funny story and it becomes personal too, but Nana and Papa go overboard. And
Really?
Yeah, it happens. And so we have some kids going, Mom and Dad, cut this off or whatever. But I do have another grandson on the way. Not grandson. We don't know what it is.
We don't know. Okay.
In Green Bay. So. Yeah. Nothing says January like Green Bay. We're going to the shower.
Come on. Do you remember? All right. So I'm totally gonna age myself. There was Cabbage Patch dolls.
Oh,
it was
we fought for them, didn't we?
Yeah.
I mean, you had to break down the doors of Target or whatever it was to get one.
And I have an 8-year-old, and I abhor shopping. Like it's not my thing at all. And my husband just yesterday called me and said, we should probably get some stuff under the tree from us, not just from like Aunt Tammy, Grandma, Grandpa, and so forth. And what do you get an 8-year-old boy?
I know.
Video games time.
Oh, okay, the producer's back there saying video games. Not going to happen. Nope.
I'm going with the Harry Potter series.
Really? Okay, there you go. That might be it. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for giving us a look back at where we were and just a preview of what can happen. There is hope. And if we stay positive,
yes,
we stay community oriented,
yes,
look at the big picture and remember the vision for Montrose and the home that, this community that we love, it'll all work out.
It will.
Is that what I heard?
It's going to be about lifestyle.
Okay.
And so let's just embrace it and be exactly what you said, community-oriented, positive growth.
Yes.
Positive growth. So I'm on about
Well, and no matter where you are in what season of life, hold on there. There's hope coming.
Yes.
It's going to be here.
Yes.
So everyone, have a fantastic Friday, and we will see you next week.